Welcome to the 2018 Rush-Henrietta DPAC Meet the Candidates Night. My name is Lisa Brophy. I am the first chair for DPAC and I will be moderating tonight's event. This is Rhonda Delaney. She's the chair of DPAC. She will be our timekeeper. Tonight, to begin the event, each candidate will have 1 minute to briefly introduce themselves. We will then continue with questions created by the DPAC committee. Once these questions have been asked, members of the community will have an opportunity to ask questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the questions that follow introductions, and I have arranged the order so that each question there will be a different person starting and stopping, so we're not always having the same people. So beginning with May, go right around and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, and thanks for having us. My name is May Abdullah. My husband and I moved to Henrietta 20 years ago from Sudan. We have 3 kids who currently attend Henrietta schools. Our oldest daughter is a senior in high school, getting ready to finish her last year in Rush-Henrietta. Our second daughter is Zina. She's a 7th grader at Rock, and our youngest boy is in the special ed class in Sherman Elementary School. He's in 5th grade. I've been involved in the district since my daughter entered kindergarten. It was initiated by a parent who invited me to chaperone a field trip, and that my journey took off, and I chaperoned field trips and did book fairs, room parent, and I joined MPAC and recently the district diversity committee that the district just started. I'm very passionate about parents' involvement, and I hope. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Ebony Barr. Also glad to be here tonight. I have 4 children within the district, and they are both sets of twins, so I have 2 sets of twins. One set is 15, they attend Berger. The second set is 7, and they attend Leary. And my husband and I moved here just about 2 years ago in 2016. That's it.
Hi, I'm Philip Chang. I'm an alumni of Rush-Henrietta, class of 2006, and I've been in the district for 30 years.
Okay. Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Cook. First of all, I'd like to thank DPAC for sponsoring this Candidates Night tonight, as they do every year. It's really a good opportunity for those of you in the audience who are here in person and those who are at home watching to get a chance to hear what the candidates think about our district, both right at the present as well as their goals for the future. I currently am the only person here who's serving on the board right now. And in fact, for the last 2 years, I've served as president of the board. I'm very proud of the work that our board does. We have a very dynamic, diverse, progressive Board of Education, and I think that we've made incredible achievements over time, but particularly in the last 3 years, that are indicative of the kind of recognition we've received. For example, USA Today Network declared us the best school in Monroe County for school climate. The State Education Department has awarded our high school a reward school designation. We need to continue that effort for continuous improvement as we go forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole LaFlaca. Please call me Nikki, though. I have to be official on the ballot. I moved to Rush-Henrietta 9 years ago with my husband, and before we chose to move here, I did a ton of research because I knew wherever we went, we were going to stay. And Rush-Henrietta was the top in Monroe County. It was what drew me here was the diversity. I'm from a very small town, and I didn't get that diversity growing up, and I want my children to have that opportunity here, and no better place than Rush-Henrietta. I have a 2nd grader at File and a kindergartner at File, and right from the get-go I got involved. I was invited to be part of the board that first year, and now I am the chair of the board. I'm on DPAC. My first year serving, I was on the space committee, and I also do a lot of the events at File.
All right, hi everybody. Thank you all. Thanks to Deepak and for you all for coming tonight. My name is James O'Brien. I am a born and raised Henrietta native, a 1996 graduate of the senior high school. And after graduation from SUNY Geneseo, I actually spent about 10 years living out of state, most of that in North Carolina, and working in higher education. And my wife Kelly and I moved back 5 years ago in 2013 because the first of our two children was born down in North Carolina, and we needed to think very seriously about where we wanted to put our kids through school, and we pretty quickly arrived at the decision to move home, and so we did. Our 7-year-old Paul is in 2nd grade at Leary, and our 4-year-old Declan will start kindergarten a year from this fall, and we're just thankful every day that we made the move home to this very excellent school district.
Hi everyone, I'm Pam Reinhardt. Many of you may remember me, remember my name. I was on the school board from 2003 to 2015. I have 2 sons who are graduates of Rush-Henrietta. I'm also a graduate of Rush-Henrietta, and I have a grandson who's starting UPK in Rush-Henrietta in the fall. Being a grandparent's the best, folks. I, in 2015, decided not to run. I had family responsibilities, I had job responsibilities. That has changed now. I have the time available, I have the passion. I haven't been idle. I'm still on budget committee, I'm on the space committee, I'm on the Board of Education audit committee. I was part of the community group that met with the 2 candidates. So I'm excited, I'm passionate, and I hope for your vote in this election.
Thank you very much for your thoughtful introductions. Our first question this evening is, what do you envision as your role and responsibilities as a Rush-Henrietta Board of Education member? And we'll start with Ebony.
Okay. What do I see as my role and responsibility being on the board? Definitely, I think family and board partnership, working together to try to meet any goals that we may have for any of the schools. Just keeping the goal of being #1 in Monroe County, providing the children with the best quality education, giving them all of the services that they may need, and anything else that happens to fall within that.
Thank you. Bob?
Oh, thank you. The main responsibilities of the Board of Education are to hire a superintendent to run the day-to-day business of the district. We've been fortunate to have a long-term superintendent, but recently hired a dynamic new young superintendent who'll be starting in the fall. And in addition to that, we have responsibility for reviewing and adopting the annual school budget, which decides how our priorities are going to be paid for in the district. And then we are responsible for setting district policy and overseeing those policies. And throughout the year, it's so important for the board to really get into the schools and into the community to make sure that we're really providing the best education for our children possible, and that things are going as they should go in our school. So the board is very involved on a day-to-day basis in overseeing the work of the administration as well as the schools themselves.
Thank you. Pam?
I have to echo a lot of what Bob said. The board has some very specific responsibilities in that we hire the superintendent. We have basically 3 employees, the superintendent, our board clerk, and an internal auditor. Beyond that, we set the policies, we make sure that the policies are followed. We are sworn by, when we're sworn in, we are sworn to uphold the laws of New York State and also the policies that are set by the State Education Department. That being said, we as a group, because you're one of 7 people, we all bring experiences to the table, and it's in our best interest to work with our fellow board members. We all have strengths, we all have areas of expertise, we all have backgrounds that we bring. So we work together, we craft those policies, we make sure that those policies are carried out, and we watch over the district as it's going on its day-to-day.
Thank you. Nikki?
Thank you for calling me Nikki. So for the role, I will reiterate what Pam and Bob said, that one of the main jobs that we had this last year was to hire a superintendent, but then also to cover all the policies that the school district has. But the most important thing to me as a board is working as a team and making sure we put the students first. We also need to be great liaisons to the community, not just the teachers and the students and the families, but people who have, you know, the elderly that are out there. They are the ones that have the history of our school and have the history of our town, and we need to bring that together. We need to make sure the board is transparent, and I think the board has done a phenomenal job to date, and I want to help continue that along.
Philip?
So I'd like to echo what the candidates have stated so far. They all made very great points about the board and what it does. But what I would like to do and build upon that is student identity. Like, what does it mean to be a student? And what does it mean to succeed in the future as you move on in your career? I feel like students need to develop that early on, that passion to want to succeed and continue their education beyond just Rush-Henrietta.
May?
Besides setting the policies and that include the hiring the superintendent and balancing the budget, I see my vision as a part of the team is to be the bridge between our board and superintendent to reach out to the communities, students and their parents, and listen to their concerns and hopes and dreams for their students, for our schools in general. I wish and hope to be able to engage parents who are underrepresented or they don't have a voice on the board. So that's what I envision my role is to be, to facilitate that.
And finally, James.
Thank you. All great points, but I think I would just add that, as a parent, I'm very engaged and active in my own children's education. And so I really view the opportunity to serve on the board as an expansion of that and being actively engaged in every student's education in the district. And, it's an opportunity to have sort of the 50,000-foot global view, but also, through our work, serving as liaisons to buildings and, quite frankly, just listening to our key stakeholders. We need to be involved locally as well. So it's a global and sort of a local dichotomy. And really, I think the primary responsibility is to stay focused on the mission, and that's to provide top quality education for our students in the most efficient way possible.
Our next question. In July, we will welcome a new school superintendent. What do you anticipate the major challenges to be, and how would you help address those? And we'll start this time with James.
What was the second part of that question? How would you help?
What do you anticipate the major challenges to be, and how would you help address those?
Sure. Well, I think, anytime you have leadership turnover at the very top of an organization like that, there's going to be inevitably sort of a period of everybody sort of, sort of feeling each other out and learning, is the new superintendent going to be the kind of person who comes in and kind of takes the lay of the land for a while, and my understanding through all the public comments is that he will. But I think it's just a chance to dialogue, with the new leader and some potential new board members, just to all get to know each other and really, be mindful of coming together in a way that, again, keeps us focused on the mission of education.
May?
I think that Dr. Graham should be commended for the relationship, the collaborative relationship that he had with the board. I think makes it easier for us to continue, if elected to the board, to continue that relationship with the new superintendent. I know change could be a little bit worrisome for people, but I think we already established how that relationship is going to be. It's trustworthy, it's open communication and support. And it's a two-way door like relationship between the board and the superintendent.
Philip?
So the way I see it is you're getting somebody new, but you're also getting into something that's already well established. So you have a vision that Dr. Graham originally created for this district. And now you're getting somebody who comes along who will be able to take his vision and hopefully build upon that vision and expand it even further. And I feel like it would take this district in a new, greater direction. And I'm really looking forward to working with the new superintendent.
Nikki?
I think the greatest challenge is the fear of change. As a district as a whole, we have had Dr. Graham for so long, and we know what to expect from the board and from Dr. Graham. So I think as a board, you need to work with the community and all the key stakeholders to calm that fear and make sure that there's two-way communication and that you are working with everybody to just get through, especially that first year. It's fearful for anybody. As a parent, I'm fearful of change. Anytime I look at my kid is going to go to a different school, that kind of thing. So it's that open communication and that dialogue with everybody, teachers, staff members, students, parents, and the community members.
Pam?
I was thinking about this today, and we have an awesome opportunity here. We have a wonderful cabinet. We have a great Board of Education. We have policies and procedures that are in place that will help guide Bo as he starts his journey here. I'm going to miss Ken terribly. I've worked a lot with him, but I look at this as, okay, we have a ship that's sailing really in the right direction. We're just putting a new captain in. And I've seen this in other districts that I've worked with, that I've been friends with board members in, and it can go very smoothly, it can be very easy, it can be a great transition. And I think we have all of the things in place here in Rush-Henrietta to make it a very good transition for all of us.
Bob?
Thank you. Excuse me. I think the most important thing, I think, is that the board and the community work very hard to pick the right person as the next superintendent. As Pam and others have said, we've been fortunate to have one superintendent for almost 2 decades who's really moved our district on a positive trajectory to the point where this is the most respected the district has ever been. We have the highest student achievement we've ever had. We've selected a new superintendent, Bo Wright, who has very broad experience, both as a teacher as well as a superintendent at a smaller district and an assistant superintendent at a bigger district. So he has really broad-based experience. So he's going to come in, I think, really on the ground running. But the biggest challenge will be to become familiar with Rush-Henrietta. You know, every district has its own way of doing things, has its own culture. And so I think the biggest challenge for him as a superintendent will be really to learn the great things about Rush-Henrietta that will help us to grow as we move into the future. But as others have mentioned, fortunately we have a very strong cabinet, and I believe we have a very strong board, which will evidently have new members as well, that will help in that process, because as Pam mentioned earlier, the board is only as strong as the 7 people working together and collaborating. I think the board collaborating with the cabinet and a really dynamic young superintendent promises a great future for Rush-Henrietta.
And finally, Ebony.
Thank you. I have to agree with everyone else. I definitely see it as a period of transition, a huge transition, but we have such a great reputation. I've only been fortunate to have dealt with the district in the last 2 years, but that was part of why we moved here, was because of the district. So I believe that even though it may be a rough transition, that we can certainly get through it.
Balancing the budget will continue to be an issue this district will face in the coming years. How would you lead us through this time period, and what do you see as its priorities? And we'll start with Nikki.
Oh, the budget. It's definitely going to be very tough in the next few years to balance the budget. And that is actually one of my passions. I have an accounting background, and budgets have always been a favorite thing of mine. You get to take apart all the numbers and look at the district as a whole, but then you're going to take things apart and really see what the district values. You need to make sure you're sticking to the values. With things coming up, we need to make sure that we're lobbying our congressmen, state congressmen, and everything to make sure we can get more funds in. Balancing the budget is going to be extremely tough, and I know for having young kids in the district, my top priorities is keeping that small class size that Rush-Henrietta is known for. I don't want to risk having my kids with 26 students in a kindergarten class. My daughter has 13 currently. My son in second grade has 16 kids. And that is a huge priority of mine.
Pam?
This is something that I've been very, very involved in over the past, even longer than I was on a board. I was on budget committee well before I was a board member. There's always unintended consequences. And the 2% tax cap is a perfect example of something with absolutely unintended consequences. It sounded like a good idea at the time, but it's really been problematic. We are going to use our reserves this year to balance our budget, as is pretty much every other school district in the county. This isn't good. We need to have a budget that is sustainable. We need to have a budget where the income and the expenses are somewhat close to each other. I mean, none of us in our home budget spends more money than we bring in, and at the end of the year goes, oops, what are we gonna do? So we have to focus on that. Part of, as Nikki alluded to, we have to work with our assembly members and our state senators. We have to let them know where we're at. We've got a very good relationship with those people right now. We have to work with the state education department. We have to let them know that when they're putting all of these rules and regulations in place, there's typically a fiscal consequence to these things. The other part of this is COMETA. We have to stay on top of them. If they're going to continually give out these tax breaks, they have to hold the companies accountable. If they say they're going to create jobs, they have to create those jobs. There has to be a benefit. I think we've done a phenomenal job. I think the policy and procedures that we have in place around the Budget Advisory Committee and the board has been very responsive to the community in that we've passed our budgets for at least 15 years now. So it's something that's absolutely at the top of my radar, always been involved in it, always been interested in, and continue to stay that way.
Thank you. Philip?
So the budget is always an interesting challenge. Like, there's always places where money can go and how to circulate that money. I think what we have to improve upon is basically the supply chain. Where is the supply that we need, and what is the demand that we're working with, and how do we maximize those two principal points? And if we can move this around, I know that we're always short, and right now we're going on surpluses to try to fund future budgets. Maybe if you can better organize and reorganize, you can have a better idea of balancing the budget. I know it's tough.
James?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, balancing the budget is a challenge, I think, for any organization. And, I think as the Board of Education, it is our responsibility to advocate for, our students, for our educators, for our community members, while engaging with, state level government and very seriously discussing these matters. And, I will say, part of our motivation for moving home from North Carolina is, we've seen what can happen when schools are under-resourced. And so, it would be my goal to make sure that we, I think as Nikki put it, that we stick to what works. We stick to what has gotten, I feel New York State schools in general and Rush-Henrietta in particular to the point that they are at, and continue, in the most fiscally responsible way possible, continue to offer those resources to all of our stakeholders to make sure that we're preparing students to be responsible citizens in the 21st century.
Ebony?
So I will not sit here and pretend as if I know a whole lot about budgeting money, especially on the spectrum of the schools. I will say that I think it's just important to always put the children first. And as long as we keep that goal in mind, hopefully everything else will balance itself out.
May?
I've had to agree with what everyone said, and I just wanted to bring something that I've experienced with my daughter, who's a senior in high school, and we went in college tours, and she met students from very affluent communities, and she was comparing the programs and the services and the clubs, and she was fortunate to have in Rush-Henrietta. It's wonderful to see how we we have better programs and services, and that's what made us successful so far. And she is very prepared, college ready, and that's a testament for the hard work the teachers and college career office has put into place. And I understand we have an obligation to our communities to use our money wisely, and I think we've been trying to do that. We had unexpected, unforeseen challenges, like we had 50 special ed students come in our district the last 2 years, I guess. But we just have to look at it in a way any way we can find how we can cut costs at the same time, not to jeopardize our small classrooms or the wonderful staff we've been fortunate to have.
And finally, Bob.
Thank you. There's no question that we're in a difficult financial bind in Rush-Henrietta, just as most school districts are right now. And others have spoken to it going last in a panel of 7. You sound pretty redundant. But what I would say is that we're very proud of the fact that we've been able to maintain the fiscal stability of this district and the lowest tax rate of all Monroe County schools, despite some of the fiscal difficulties we've had. The reason we've been able to do that is that we've been very judicious at capping some expenditures and cutting around the edges where we could without adversely impacting school programs, class sizes, and various other important things. Music, we have an award-winning music program, and athletics. So that's something that we have to continue to do. Now, this year, we entered into a gradual 3-year, potentially, program of utilizing, in a judicious way, some of our reserves to tide us over in the expectation that we will be in better fiscal times within a couple of years. Part of the answer, as others have said, is lobbying on the state level. We were fortunate that our lobbying efforts this year yielded an additional $300,000 from the state legislature for our foundation aid, so we were able to reduce actually the amount that we were taking from reserves, buying us a little bit more time. We need to continue sort of that easing process, but at the same time look to the point where we aren't as constrained with the tax cap as we are, because right now we can't increase our revenues very much, and that's a good thing, but our expenditures continue to go up at the same time. So we need to be in a situation where that isn't the kind of restriction that it is. Our legislators are aware of it. Our hope is that by continuing legislative lobbying, we're going to be able to get some exclusions on the tax cap that'll give us a little bit more room.
Thank you. This concludes the DPAC questions for the panel. At this time, I would like to invite members of the community to approach the microphone and ask questions. Does anyone have a question? No? Okay. Well, thank you to the community for coming. At this time, I would invite each candidate to provide us with a 2-minute summation, and included in your closing remarks, we would ask that you please just simply answer the question, what do you want to accomplish as a Rush-Henrietta Board of Education member? And we'll start with Ebony.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for having me tonight. I feel as though I may be the most green person sitting up here tonight, as I have never done anything like this before. But I do feel as though the passion that I have for not just my children, all of the children within the Rush-Henrietta School District, I just want to bring more to the table on that. I would like to just expand more in the involvement that I've had just in my own kids, and just sort of expand that out a little bit more. So if you would have me, I would be willing to serve and willing to learn.
Bob?
Thank you, DPAC, for sponsoring this event tonight. I think it's important to point out just how diverse this group is. And I think that I'm so impressed that we have 7 candidates that so well reflect the depth and diversity of our community. And I think that any 7 here could ably serve on the school board, which by coincidence is the number of members of the board. Unfortunately, we can only pick 3 in this election, 3 out of these 7. So I would ask that I get your vote this year, because I believe it's important that we maintain some continuity of leadership as we move into the period of having a new superintendent. And my focus over the next 3 years will be at maintaining continuous improvement for the students of our district.
Pam?
Thank you very much. I appreciate this. I've been on your side of this. When I was on DPAC, it's an undertaking, and I appreciate you doing this. What do I hope to accomplish in the next 3 years? As Bob said, I would like to facilitate a very smooth transition with our new superintendent. I feel that being a board member for as long as I was, I can do that as an experienced board member. I would like to be able to work with all of the stakeholders in terms of our budget. It's something that needs a lot of attention and it's going to continue to need a lot of attention. And I want to continue what we're doing that makes us all so proud. I sat down and I wrote down some things that I'm so proud of. Our full-day kindergarten and the reorganization had some bumps, but you know what? We did a great job, and we didn't have to go to the state looking for money to do it. Sorry. You know, the adding on to the buildings, we've been able to use our own reserve funds. We haven't had to bond or borrow. We have our reserves to use. There's a lot of districts that don't have the reserves or don't have the level of reserves that we do. Our PBIS and our advanced safety, we're doing a great job in our buildings, keeping our kids safe, not only from exterior threats, but also making sure that they feel safe and welcomed in their buildings. Our tax rate, I want to continue that. I'm very proud of the fact we have the lowest true value tax rate. I know our citizens appreciate that. I know our senior citizens appreciate that. My dad lets me know that one all the time. Our music program, our sports programs, I'm so proud of what we do. I want to continue to be a part of that. I hope that you will vote for me. Thank you.
Vicki?
I want to thank everyone for their time tonight. We greatly appreciate it. What do I want to accomplish as a board member? I want to continue working as a great team that we've already built here in Rush-Henrietta. I am so passionate about all of the great programs and services that we have here, and that Rush-Henrietta has always put the students first. That has always been their #1 priority, and they do such a wonderful job with reflecting that and everything that they do, including the budget, because we see every year that things are pinched a little bit on the further end, where the services and the staff have what they need. It's a phenomenal it's a phenomenal school to be a part of, and I will work tirelessly with the community as a whole. I'm willing to put in the time and effort as needed to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm constantly taking classes, and I love everything that I can do to take in more knowledge. And I've been so fortunate to learn so much about RH in the last 9 years that I've lived here, and especially the last 3 years of schooling. I would be so grateful to be voted onto the board, so thank you.
Philip?
So firstly, I want to say, just like everyone else, thank you, DPAC, for this great event. And really, what I like to see myself on the board is a little bit of the progressive nature that Bob was talking about. Basically, I'm new to the board as well. I've never sat on a board before, but I come in with a lot of new ideas. And I feel like my background, I'm a cancer researcher, so I worked a lot with funding and how to get money in order to do projects. And I feel like I could take that same knowledge and apply it to grants that the school would apply to for. And I feel like I would be able to bring this district, with the help of the new board that we put together, whoever they may be from this great group of people, and really move this district forward with the new superintendent.
May?
As a parent with a child with special needs, you get a lot of doors slammed in your face, and you hear no from every direction. But you find a way to do it. You are your child's advocate, and this is what I've been doing for 8 years since he's entered the school system. I've been an advocate for parents who their kids are English learners. I worked as an interpreter and an advocate, and I bring a strong desire to promote equal opportunity and equal access for education opportunities for all our kids. And I hope by being on the board that I inspire other parents to get involved in the district and their child's education. And because I saw firsthand how that positively affected my children. And I hope to continue doing that.
And finally, James.
Thank you. My thanks as well to DPAC and the community for putting on this event tonight. As I mentioned before, my wife Kelly and I made the move home from North Carolina 5 years ago, and schools were a big part of that decision for us. And so what I would hope to accomplish is to maintain, in a fiscally responsible way, the excellence that we have as a district and enhance where possible. One quick example I'll give, speaking of special education services in the district, our son Paul, early on in UPK, his very first experience as a student and our first experience with the parents in the district, his UPK teacher had her antenna up to some potential occupational therapy issues that Paul could have addressed. And we subsequently got the assessments he needed, the therapies he needed, and he's doing well. We are fairly certain that those services would not have been available to him in the public school district that we were living in when we were down in North Carolina. And so, very often the narrative is, people love to move to the Sun Belt because of the low taxes, low taxes, low taxes. And I don't pretend to be a tax policy expert, but I don't feel we talk enough about what you actually get for those lower taxes. And I feel that, having good qualified teachers, the extracurricular activities, the music program, I was president of the wind ensemble in 1995 and 96. When arts, funding, athletics, all those extracurricular activities are getting cut around the country, we maintain those here. In a community like Rochester, for us to lose out on our arts and music funding, it would be just a travesty, and I feel like it won't happen. And so, what I hope to accomplish is to, with an eye forward, maintain the excellence that this district has displayed ever since I entered kindergarten right over there at Winslow Elementary in 1983. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the 2018 Meet the Candidate Night event. I want to thank all the candidates as well as the members of the community for coming out for such an important event.
Thank you.